Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, everyone. I see y'all coming in. I see you coming in. I see you coming in. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. It's so good to be back with you. I missed you guys last week. But it's so good to be back with you today. If you're just joining us for the first time and you don't know who I am your host, Sue A. Webley. I'm the founder of Cara Solutions LLC, and Cara Solutions provides administrative, production, and tech services by way of live stream production, content and social media management, and graphic and web design to small business owners, to social entrepreneurs, and faith-based and community-based organizations. And so Inspire, if you're joining us for the first time, Inspire is a live interview style broadcast on a mission to encourage, empower, and embolden individuals to create change in their personal lives, their communities, and in the world. And so, as our guests, as our entrepreneurs and influencers and creatives and others share their testimonies, tips, and tools with us, we hope that you who are watching and going to be listening in later on, that you are inspired to elevate your mindset, to pursue your dreams, and to do, as the late Dr. Katie Geneva Cannon put it so eloquently, the work your soul must have. So we are live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And so I invite you, those of you who are coming in, to take this time to first share, but I also want you to connect, like, follow, and subscribe. So listen, I don't want you to miss anything that's happening. So connect, follow, like, subscribe. Connect, follow, like, subscribe. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on YouTube at Cara Solutions LLC. We are Twitter at Cara Solutions. And of course, you could always head over to the website at www.cara-solutions.com to find out everything there is to find out about Cara Solutions and also about Inspire. We are also on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Bullet in Flight Radio. So if you want to listen to any of our previous broadcasts, or you can watch them also on Spotify. But the other podcasting platforms you can listen to, you can take it with you. Okay, we are inspired by Cara on all of those platforms, and we hope to be able to provide you with even more platforms to watch and listen at. So let me see who's hanging with us. I see you, Dr. Chella Belcher. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And Pastor Joyce, thank you for joining us. Listen, I see more people watching than are shouting out. So I do hope that you will engage with us and that you will kind of let me know who you are and where you are watching from. But you know the question I ask every week: what you sipping on? What you sipping on this morning? What you drinking? You have some waters, you have some coffee, some tea, some juice, it's a good smoothie. Listen, if you have a little something stronger in your cup too, I'm not judging. But let me know what you are sipping on. You know me. I got to have the cup. I got my little Inspire, my Cara cup right here, and I'm drinking my coffee. Got some I'm just having some mocha creamer, some the almond creamer, silk almond creamer, the mocha flavor, which is really, really good. And so, y'all, I'm upset because Dr. Renee put me onto that mushroom coffee, and I bought some, and then I was hooked. I was hooked on this mushroom coffee, and now I've run out of the mushroom coffee, y'all. So your sis is going through it because she ran out. So now the regular coffee don't taste the same. It's not doing it's not giving what it's supposed to give because this mushroom, I don't have any mushroom coffee. So tell me what you drinking. What are you sipping on? Mango chamomile. That sounds good, Dr. Chella. Mango chamomile herbal tea. That sounds good. That sounds good. If you're joining us, let me know what you're sipping on. Let me know what you were sipping on this morning. And I hope that you are sharing. Thank you for obliging me and letting me know what you're sipping on. Listen, I'm going to announce this again, but I want to make sure that you have registered for part 2 of Crush Those Goals and Relationships. So if you had joined us for part 1 was a live broadcast with Dr. Renee Amen. Listen, that was a good broadcast. So if you missed it, I need y'all to go back and watch it or listen to it, because part two is coming up. And what we are doing this time is that we are inviting you into the room with us so that we can have conversation together. So we've been going through Young Pueblo's 11 relationship goals. And again, if you don't know who Young Pueblo is, he's a New York Times selling author. You can find him anywhere. There's type in Young Pueblo and you will find him everywhere. His content on Instagram is just amazing. And so we went through about 5 of those 11, and we're going to complete that in Zoom, but we want you to come in and join us and let's have a talk back. Let's have some real conversation about relationships. And so this will not be aired live. This will not be streamed live. If you want to talk, right? If you want to be in conversation with us, you have to come into the Zoom. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you to register. Today it's a free registration, and it's happening this coming Tuesday, February 28th at 7 o'clock Eastern, right? February 28th at 7 o'clock Eastern. And I want you to go ahead and register today. And this is not just for couples, right? This is, if you're single, if you want to be in a relationship one day, these are just some things that you should be looking for. These are some things that you should be demanding. If you're not these tips, right? If you don't find these in your relationship, and then it also gives you the opportunity to say, hey, you might need to do a little work. We might do a little work. So, yep, go ahead and register. I'm going to make sure that I drop that in the chat right now. Let me drop it in there for you. Again, it's a free registration. I do ask that you share with your networks, so share with your family and friends and networks. And yeah, let's come together on Tuesday and talk some more about relationships. All right. So we are going to move forward. We have a guest that I'm really excited about. And Ernest responded to the call. I put an ad out about just inviting people to, if they had a story to tell, if they are into inspiring others as we are. Put an ad out on Instagram, on social media, but mostly on Instagram. And Ernest was one of the individuals who said yes, right? Who filled out the guest intake. And so I'm so excited to have him join us today. Ernest is a podcaster, speaker, and author, and I'm about to let you know just a little bit more about him right now. So Ernest R. James is a family man, father, and friend with a heart for people. As a minister, mentor, and speaker, Ernest has dedicated his life to inspiring and uplifting others. His mission is to help others deal, heal, and fulfill. And we're gonna talk about that a little later. Deal with your problems, heal from your pain, fulfill your purpose. That's what we are about here at Inspire, right? He spreads a message of hope and healing wherever he goes. He believes that we must heal ourselves. When we heal ourselves, we heal our families. Our families heal our communities. Our communities heal our world. Ernest was raised in a two-parent household, but recognized the effects of fatherlessness on his extended family and friends who were being raised by single mothers. Ernest is determined to heal families by helping fatherless mothers and daughters heal from their father wound. We're also going to talk about that in a little bit. With his Friend to Fatherless Daughters campaign and mentoring dads and sons with his Man Up, which means men activating newly untapped potential male mentoring program. Ernest is also an advocate for education. After a few failures early in life, Ernest quickly rebounded to complete grammar school, finished high school in 3 years, and became a college graduate. Ernest is now an entrepreneur, business owner, minister, and speaker. Ernest believes that you must fail fast, and fail first. That way you can rebound and rebuild your life, then help others do the same. Ernest is an author, social media influencer, online course creator, and workshop instructor. He's been a guest on several podcasts, as well as hosting his own podcast, Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Ernest plans on sharing his message with as many people as will listen. And so I'm going to make sure that you have his information, by the time we end today, that you'll have his information, how you reach him and all of that stuff in the chat. But for now, as we prepare to meet Ernest, you know how I do. This particular clip is from him talking about two words: think and think. Think and think.
I'd like to introduce everyone to the twins, and those twins are think and thank, right? Think and thank. So when you look at the word think and you look at the word thank, there's only one difference in between those two words, and even with the spelling of those two words, it's an I and an A, and the I is individual, stands for the individual, and the A stands for everyone and everything, right? So we got think and we got thank, because you can't do one without the other. You can't think about all the things that you've been blessed with, all the things that has happened in your life, all the things that you have overcome, and not be thankful, right? There's no way you can think about the blessings that you have received, the people that's in your life, the people that's poured into you, the opportunities that you've been able to get, and not be thankful. And on the other hand, there's no way you can be thankful for the things that you've received without thinking about how much you've received, right? Without thinking about the opportunities, not only that you have because of the present opportunity, but the opportunities that you have that's going to come forward in the future because of what you're doing.
Good morning, Ernest.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
I am well. Thank you for joining us this morning.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm glad to be able to come on and just share my story.
Yeah. I love this whole concept of think and thank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And never, I don't think I've ever kind of put those two words together. Right. And so when I saw that clip, I was like, I need to share this.
Yeah, because it's all about being thankful and then being grateful, for what you've accomplished. Number one, for the activity of your limbs, just like it's so much that we have to be thankful for. And oftentimes we take a lot of it for granted, just because we're supposed to have it, not so recently, but on my podcast, I interviewed a young lady. She's in her 20s and she had to have her leg amputated, and so was a whole thing for her, of course, especially being as young as she is, and just thinking about, the fact that you get up every morning and get out the bed, walk to the bathroom, and, without thinking twice about it, that at 1 second, at any moment, something could happen to alter your whole reality. You know what I mean? And so we got to always remain thankful by thinking on the things that we have to be grateful for.
Yeah. So that's being intentional about thinking about it. Because you're right. Like we could just, it's not even it doesn't even show up in our minds, right? Because it's just so repetitive and we begin to take those things for granted. So we have to be really intentional about the thinking part. So that we can be thankful. I love that. I love that concept. What are you sipping on this morning?
I am sipping on some Kai's coffee from Kai's Coffee Shop. Drink big, think big is their motto. Some lovely coffee, and I'm drinking out of my number one grandpa mug that my granddaughter bought me. So that's what I'm sipping on this morning.
Look, Ernest, you do not look old enough to be a grandpa.
You know what? I'll accept that, even with all this gray on my face.
I know many young people were gray.
I am 46. I am 46, so I am still young. But yes, I have two granddaughters.
How old are they?
My two sons. One of them is 5. Is she 5? No, I think she's 5 or 6, and then my youngest is like 2. So she's in her terrible twos.
I know we call them terrible twos, but they're exploring. They don't, they're just, testing limits and all of that stuff. Well, kids don't know how to test limits really. But, I mean, think about child development and stuff like that. Yeah. They're in that space where they're into everything because they're learning. They're learning about the world, right? And they're curious about everything. And they have no fear. So fear does not exist at 2 years old. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I see y'all. Hey, Sissy. Hey, Tanya. I see you have your coffee. Thank you for joining us. I see all of you sharing too. So thank you so much. So let's get into our conversation, Ernest. I read, of course, your bio, but tell me, I want to hear a little bit more about your life story. And so can you share some of that with us? And can you let us know, like, how has your lived experience informed the way that you show up in your work as an author, in your work as a social media influencer, and a course creator and a workshop instructor? How has your lived experience showed up?
Yeah. Well, everything that I do is a reflection of something that's of an experience that I've had in my life, you know. And so, like I said, growing up in a two-parent household, blessed to have my mother and my father in my house. I am the oldest boy, but I'm one of 9 siblings. You know, it's 9 of us. And definitely had some hardships, you know, early on in my life with our family structure. And I actually, with me, after I was born, that was we kind of went through a transition, or should I say, my parents kind of went through a transition, because earlier we lived a high, I'm going to say high, but I just say middle class lifestyle. You know, my dad had a good job working for the phone company. My mom didn't work at that time, but we had the big house with the 2-car garage and the camper to go on family vacations. You know, the big yard with the dog. We had all that dream lifestyle. But due to some circumstances that I don't even know everything that happened, I know we moved to another state, and then for a couple of years, and then we came back. When we moved back to Chicago, which is where I'm from, the company that my dad was working for, even though they transferred him to the other state, when we came back, they wouldn't transfer him back. And so he ended up losing his job, and we ended up losing everything. Wow. You know, so you got a husband, wife, and their 9 kids end up having to move into my grandmother's house on my dad's side. And so you got 12 people in 1 bedroom. You know what I mean? And we were in there for quite some time, a year or so. And it took some time, you know, for my family to get back on our feet. So I was able to see both of those transitions in my life at a young age, you know. But went on to you know, just myself personally, went on to do very well in school after some early failures, but I was able to do very well in school and move on to just having the mindset to press forward and to do some things. And so I've been blessed to do a lot of stuff in my life. I started a couple businesses, started a nonprofit organization, started a church, you know, just a whole lot of things. And so at the core of it, it all goes back to, I'm just a person that loves people. You know what I mean? And most of the things that I do is a reflection of that and helping somebody in some kind of way, you know. And so that's pretty much been my whole life. And then everything that I do now is just an extension of that, you know, of that person, of that being, just trying to help as many people as I can in whatever way that I can.
And so thank you for sharing. So one of the things that intrigued me in reading your bio, and you kind of alluded to it in just now, you know, the fathers, right? Your passion for helping fatherless mothers and daughters heal. Considering that you had your dad in the household, that I think that's part of what really intrigued me. So where did this come from, right? Your passion for helping fatherless mothers and daughters heal from what you call their father wounds, right? So can you tell us about how you became engaged in that work?
So I was married at the time, and we had a great marriage, you know, and we were moving along, you know, nicely, you know, a nice little groove. But around like year 5, we started having some challenges in our marriage. And so working through that, what I began to understand that a lot of our challenges came from our upbringing. So again, I was raised in a 2-parent household. You know, so I was used to seeing 2 people working together. My wife at the time was raised in a single mother household. And so she was used to her just watching a single mother do everything, take care of everything, make all the decisions. And so with those 2 dynamics coming together, you know, it was a difference, you know. And so what I realized when I looked at that our relationship, and then I started looking back into my relationships in my life, I realized every woman I've ever dated has been a fatherless daughter. And so it was like, you know what? Either I'm attracted to them or they're attracted to me, but we keep connecting for whatever reason. And so again, my mind went to, well, what can I do to help? What can I do to, to reach these young ladies who I'm running into? And so I started the Friends of Fatherless Daughters page on Instagram, and just started, giving my opinion and my advice on different things that fatherless daughters had to deal with from my experience with them. You know what I mean? And then, of course, doing more research into the effects of fatherless daughters, because I was more in tune with what it looks like for the fatherless sons, because I'm a guy, so I'm around guys. You know what I mean? So I can see firsthand what that looks like. But on the other hand, with the fatherless daughters, I only received the effects of it. You know what I mean? So I had to do some research to find out, okay, what is it? And having those conversations. I remember someone asked me, like, did you, what was it that you saw in them that made you, be able to recognize that something was wrong? And I said, well, actually, I didn't, because to me it was normal, because every woman I ever dated was a fatherless daughter. So whatever their behaviors was, or things that the way that they act out or communicated, it was normal to me. I'm like, oh, I thought everybody acted like that. You know what I mean? I thought everybody responded in that way. But as I began to do my research and things like that, I realized that it was effects of abandonment, effects of, not feeling enough, and things like that, as a result of their father not being in their lives. And so I went to social media with it, and I started, sharing my viewpoints on it and my advice. And I was asked to be on podcasts. That's actually how I got even into the podcast world, because someone called me. It was like, would you like to be a guest on my podcast? And I said, sure. And so after I did that one, I was asked to do, about 5 or 6 more. And then that kind of led into me doing my own podcast thing and that. But I love that space to be able to speak, to the fatherless daughters. But the reality is, for a male, it's a hard space to get into, because it's a woman dominated space, and I'm accepted for the conversation, but I'm not accepted in the room. You know what I mean? So I've had conversations with, young ladies who was over, conferences or fatherless daughter conferences or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we had a conversation. I could be on an interview, whatever. But when it comes to getting in the room and speaking on the stage, it's like, nope, it's women only. You can't come in, So I said, well, it's cool. I'll stay in my lane, and I just voice my opinion, and those who come in contact with, I share my stuff that way. And so that's what I've been doing. And that led to me even writing an ebook. One of my ebooks is called The 4 Core, right? And I'll share that briefly. It's called the 4 Core, which is the 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, right? And so I wrote that as a way to help, with fatherless daughters, just to have an understanding of how the fatherlessness may have affected them. And I did that research for, number one, my relationship with my daughter, and my relationship with watching my father's relationship with my 5 sisters, and then of course with the women I dated. And so put all of that information together and said, well, at its core, what does the father provide to his daughters? And that's guidance, love and affection, affirmation, and protection, and so I just wrote the ebook about that. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Not so much in the rooms. Again, like I said, it's hard to get in the rooms, but I love to be on platforms like this, so I can be able to share the message still.
Yeah. I'm actually not surprised that you have issues getting in the room, because a conversation like that is really kind of woman centered. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a worthy conversation to have. And and so I could even say it now. I think I want to do something around Father's Day, and have you come back and have some, and have some of those women in the room, right? And even, I'm glad that you did mention that your connection to fatherless men, right? Because that also is an issue, right? And I think that conversation is important to have. So thank you so much for sharing. I see folk. Chaplain PJ says you're meeting an essential need. Pastor Joyce is asking that you. What are those 4 words again that you just shared? Can you share it again?
It's guidance, love and affection, affirmation, and protection. Mm-hmm. So those are the 4 areas, and I can go into it a little bit if you don't mind. Just
go ahead.
So guidance would be the guidance of a father, because most of the time our daughters are more emotional, right? And so
I'm sorry, you gonna get people, you gonna get some of our women here, you know, saying something to you about this emotional stuff. But go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay, because the truth is the truth, right? And so a lot of times our daughters are more emotional, right? And when their father is not active, it takes away, because I explain it this way: men are more factual, and so we act out or make decisions more factual on facts than on feelings, right? And so because a woman is usually more emotional, it takes that father to come in with the structure of how to make those decisions outside of emotion. And so when it comes to guidance, that's where your father comes in at, like, okay, let me show you how to make decisions that's not based on emotion, that's based on fact. Because a lot of times we act out of emotion, and so you make a decision now out of your emotion that don't benefit you 5 minutes from now, let alone 5 days from now, because you made the decision out of emotion and not out of facts, and so that guidance comes in with your father, even with that. And then sometimes it don't even have to be an emotional decision, but I like to say, like, good, better, and best, just in what's good when you're making the decision, right? So I talk about the experience with my daughter, who's going to be 20 now. My daughter's going to be 20. And so she came to me and she was like, Dad, I want to buy my first car. It was like, cool, And so she's like, well, I'm saving my money so I can, have a good down payment so I don't have, a large note. And I said, that's good. That's a good idea. But now this is where my guidance come in and said, well, how about this? Let's work on your credit so that get you A1 credit so you don't need a down payment. You know what I mean? You can walk in, sign your name, and keep your money in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? So that's that guidance, those things like that about making decisions and choices. So when we think about love, your father is supposed to be the first man that shows you an example of what love is, right? How you should be respected, how you should be cared for, how you should be looked after, right? So that's the word of love. Then there's the affirmation. And I say affirmation as a way of telling you something about yourself that you should already know, right? But in case you don't know, I'm reaffirming that you are great, you are wonderful, you are smart. You know what I'm saying? I'm affirming those things in you that you should know about yourself and should feel about yourself. But just in case you don't, let me tell you how I see you as your father. And then the last one will be protection. And when we talk about protection, we always think about, the scene in Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and we think about the physical protection. So I like to change that word from protection to safety. And that's giving your daughter the opportunity to be safe and however she feels the way that she shows up. So safe to express herself, safe to be herself, safe to be able to express herself verbally or physically, however it is that she feels like she wants to show up, giving her that opportunity to do that. Because as we know, as we get older and we start showing up in these different spaces, there will be people who try to shut you down in different ways. We talk about the young ladies with the hair, like, oh no, you can't wear your hair like that. You got to wear that different way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Oh, you can't say this, or you can't say that, or you can't be quick to voice your opinion, because now you're opinionated, But no, I'm going to raise my daughter that she knows it's safe for her to express herself any way that she feels. And so those are the four core values.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. And you listen, our audience is agreeing with you. And so Tanya says, as a fatherless daughter, I detect no lies so far. And Pastor Joyce said, ooh, 5 decades too late. Listen, this is why we have to have you back and have this conversation, because You know, and I want to, because I don't want us to get off while you're here right now, but we also have to think about why the fathers are absent, or why the fathers. Chaplain PJ says, I'm gonna ask that question, Dr. Chella. I definitely will. Chaplain PJ says that her dad was physically present, but emotionally absent, right? It is a conversation that we need to have. So Dr. Chella asks, how does this apply to folks who are not on the binary or who are trans, right? How does this concept of, is that what you're saying? How does the concept of being fatherless apply? Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Chella. How does this apply to folks who are not on the binary and or trans? How would you address that, Ernest?
So the core four, I wrote the book geared toward fathers and daughters, but the core four is needed by children, period. You know what I mean? Those same core values, all of us need, you know, as children growing up, whether you identify as a male or female or whatever, we still need those four values. You know what I'm saying? So the values themselves do not change.
Right.
You know, you still be important to, you still need guidance, you still need love, you still need to be affirmed, and you still need to be protected. Yeah. So it doesn't matter, you know, where you are on the spectrum or how you identify yourself as a person, as a human being. We still need those values. We still need to be poured into the same way. Yes. You know. So I just wrote the book from that mindset of, you know, me with my daughter, you know what I'm saying? But it doesn't matter. The values don't change.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ernest. I'm going to make this one comment, then we're going to move on to the next question. So Tanya says, I just think that you were speaking, she's talking to you, speaking from the standpoint of a father that is emotionally present and attached. There is a difference between what's supposed to be and what is. So I think it's important to acknowledge which father these attributes come from and how they are absent in fathers that are emotionally absent. Thank you so much for that comment.
Well, one thing I always say, the spectrum of fatherlessness is wide and you know, it's wide and in between. So you got on one hand the fathers who are physically present but emotionally not there, attentively not there. You know, then on the far end of the other side, you got fathers who you've never known, never met, probably never even known their name. And so there's a wide array in between, and definitely the fathers who are, you know, physically there but not emotionally present. You know, but again, going back to the values, even though you may not have received it from him, because even though he was physically there, the values still don't change. You still need it, and even more so then because you have the person physically there, but you're not receiving what you need from them. So the values still need to be given, you know, and that's one of the other things that I talk about when I'm talking to the fathers, daughters. And let me know if I'm going too far, because I can go on this all day. So one of the things I talk about that I ask them to consider, right? I say, well, what generation of fatherlessness are you, right? If you are a fatherless daughter, was your mother a fatherless daughter? Was your grandmother a fatherless daughter? Was her mother a fatherless daughter? Right. And so when you start looking at how many generations it goes back, then I say, okay, so now my next question is to you is how many generations will come after you? Right. Or will you start making some changes that's going to change that paradigm to keep that cycle from continuing? And so one of the things that I teach, I'm inspired, let me put it that way, that the fatherless daughters do, because there's a statistic that says most fatherless daughters will give birth to fatherless children. And again, that's how the cycle continues. And so my thing is, okay, even if the father is there and active and can provide those four core values, cool, you know, but if he's not, then as the mother who generally has custody of the children, it's your job to make sure that there is a positive father figure in the lives of your children, right? And they're out there. We're out there because I'm one of them, right? I do mentorship. I'm connected to a lot of guys, a lot of organizations that do mentorship for fathers and for sons. I mean, for sons and for daughters. So it's out there. But as a mother, you have to take that initiative. If the father won't step up for whatever reason, you have to take the initiative to make sure that your child is receiving that positive male influence in their lives. And so I give three points to do just to get started. Number one, look for someone who's already in position to lead, right? So that could be a pastor, a principal, a teacher, somebody that's already doing the work. You know what I mean? So you don't have to coach them and try to pull teeth to get them to do it. They're already doing it. So that's number one. Number two, look for someone who has the characteristics that you want instilled in your child. Because again, there are some people who will take your children and lead them in a direction, but it might not be the direction you want them to go. Some guy that's on the corner may take your son and lead him. Hey, I'll take him on the drink, but he might not be leading him where you want your son to go. So look for someone who has the characteristics that you want instilled in your child. Look for someone that's already doing the work, so you can already see that they are doing it, that they are having an effect. And then the third one is looking for someone who wants the job, because unfortunately, even there are some who are in position to do it, but they don't want the job. I know someone personally. I was talking to a young lady about her son, and she has a father and brothers. And I was like, well, your father, your brothers don't take out time with your sons. She's like, no, they don't want to. You know what I mean? And so you have people who are in position and have the opportunity to be a mentor or whatever, but they don't want the job. So if they don't want a job, don't give it to them. But there are plenty of mentor programs. There are plenty of guys and ladies that live their life helping and pouring into children. All you got to do is look for it. And with the internet today, is very easy to find.
Yeah. I mean, this is really good stuff. And so yeah, this just reconfirms for me that we need to have this conversation, because there's so many layers, right? There's so many layers, and I like that you talked about that fatherlessness being like a spectrum, because you could have someone there but not be there, right? Or not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So there's some good comments coming in about all of that, and yeah, we will definitely again have another conversation, and maybe a panel, maybe we'll do something with it. But I think it's important. It's an important conversation to have, particularly as it pertains to the Black community. Right. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't exist in other communities, but particularly in the Black community, it is a thing. And so it deserves its own separate conversation. So we are going to take, because I want to get into the healing part. I want to get some into deal, heal, and fulfill. So we're going to take a quick break. Everybody take a sip of water, a sip of coffee, or whatever you are sipping on, and we'll be right back to continue our conversation with Ernest.
If I fall behind on one more thing today, I'm going to call it quits.
Is your workload leaving you frustrated? Is overwhelm hindering your performance? Do you have too many to-dos on your to-do list? Call Kara. Just one phone call with a member of our team will have you feeling less pressured and more productive in no time. Our job is to make your job easier. Focus on your passion. Let Kara handle the rest. Hey y'all. Just want to remind you to connect, follow, like, and subscribe. So once again, we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Kara Solutions LLC, on Twitter at Kara Solutions, and of course, you can head over to our website at kara-solutions.com to find out all about Kara Solutions and about Inspire. You can also connect with us on our podcasting platforms. We're on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Bullet in Flight Radio. We are at Inspire by Kara on all of those platforms. So if you're not already following us, just look for Inspired by Kara and connect with us. Also, I have to give a shout out because it's this is the last Saturday in Black History Month. So I got to shout out the Black owned businesses. All right, so my dope Black Pastor t-shirt from Scott Michelle's Tees and Things. This was this is the one that got Scott Michelle's Tees and Things on the map, and Scott's mama Tanya is in the audience, And so so I had to rock this tee for the last Saturday in Black History Month. We know Black History Month is you know, every day, but we wanted to give that shout out to Scott Michelle's Teas and Things. And Scott Michelle Teas and Things also hosts Inspire Swag and Cara Solutions Swag. So that's also live on carasolutions.com. So remember to, if you're going to the website, it's Cara-Solutions. Don't forget that hyphen in the middle. And get yourself some Cara and Inspire swag. And while you're there, pick up some stuff from Scott Michelle Teas and Things as well. We want you to be our guest. So if you're an entrepreneur, influencer, creative, or other individual on a mission to inspire others like we are, we want you to be on our show. And so you can visit us again on our website at www.cara-solutions.com/inspire, or simply email us at inspire@cara-solutions.com. I want to remind those of you who might have come in late, our relationships part 2 is happening this Tuesday, February 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I've placed that link in the chat. So, if you joined us late, you can go ahead and scroll. That link is there for you to register. We are going to be meeting on Zoom. We will not be broadcasting live, right? Because we want to have we want to be able to engage with each other and provide, I say that safe spaces are relative, because what's safe for one is not safe. Cannot be safe for someone else. But we are curating a brave, bold space, right? An encouraging space for you to come and be in conversation with us about relationship goals. And so if you missed our first broadcast a couple weeks back, I invite you to go ahead and to either, if you're whatever platform you're on, just look in the video section, or go ahead to Spotify or Amazon Music or Google Podcasts and listen or watch that previous broadcast with Dr. Renair Amin, so that you are prepared to be in conversation with us this coming Tuesday. Listen, you don't want to miss it. That was a fire broadcast a couple of weeks back. And so we know that our upcoming conversation is just going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So please register, make plans to join us on Tuesday, February 28th at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right, we are going to get back into our conversation with Ernest.
When those issues come up and you have to deal with them, sometimes if it's really hard to deal with, it'll start to affect everything that you've already been successful in, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your friendships, whether it's on your job, everything that you've reached success in. Now those issues will start to affect it, because it starts to affect you.
Hey, Ernest, welcome back. So I thought that was a good segue, in particular because we just finished this conversation about the fatherlessness, and so it really does. And speaking from experience, not that there was a point in time where I could say it, that I experienced fatherlessness for a time, and then there was a stepfather, but that father wound from my birth father is still there, and so it really does impact, right, how one shows up later on in life, right? So we're gonna have the conversation. I really want to get into deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal, heal, and fulfill. So that is your mantra, right? So can you break down each of those terms? Can you break down deal? Can you break down heal and fulfill, and give us some real life examples of each?
Sure. So my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. To deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose, right? And so that plays out in our life, and it's really connected to everything that I do, And so I'll give you one example of a young man. I'll just say his name is Phil, right? And this is how this played out in his life, even with me helping him. So I met this gentleman. His name was Phil. He was in his early 20s. And he was introduced to me by a friend of mine because he was homeless, and he was the only child. His mom had recently been put in hospice because she was sick, and she ended up passing away from cancer. And so his family would not take him in, and he had been on this journey, kind of being on his own for years, and so I met Phil, and I was introduced to him. So as I've done so many times with people, I take them to my home. I am a father. I am a stepfather also. I have 4 stepsons, and so I brought him to my home, and I said, okay, I'm going to help you. And so number one was to start off with dealing with the problems that he had. And one of his problems, he had dropped out of school. You know what I mean? And being on his own, there was a lot of things that he couldn't do because he was on his own. So I took him again, brought him to my home, put a roof over his head, helped him, enrolled him in a GED program where he was able to get his GED, helped him get his driver's license, and things like that, just to start building on a foundation that he could stand on his own. And so that's kind of dealing with his problems. Also, the next thing came with the healing, and it came from the emotional state that he was in, and trying to deal with emotionally the things that he had to deal with. And so one of the things I remember us having a conversation, because I felt that he wasn't putting enough effort into some of the things that he was doing, or some of the things that he was supposed to do. And so I brought it to his attention, like, okay, you're doing good here, but in some of these other areas, you're not doing so well. What's going on with that? And so then he began to talk about, how he felt, and nobody was there for him, and nobody was looking out for him, and he had to do all this stuff by himself and all that. And so that was his where he was emotionally, and with his attitude, just having a negative attitude, and how he looked at life. And so I had to point out to him, I said, well, what are you talking about? Because I just met you, at that time a couple months ago, and I took you to my home. I gave you room and board. I'm feeding you. I helped you get your driver's license. I let you drive my car, so you can't say that no one is looking out for you and no one is helping you when your very being right now is come from someone that's helping you, but you have to change your outlook. Yes, your past have dealt you some trauma and some things, and that you felt some type of way because your family wouldn't take you in and things like that. So you did feel helpless, but now you have help. And so you have to open up your eyes to see that, and open up your mind to be able to say, okay, the world is not as dark as it used to be. Like, there is some light now, and so start dealing with that emotional things of, emotional healing and things that he had to go through. And then the last part of it was just fulfillment. It was like, okay, what do you want? What do you want for yourself? What do you want? Who do you want to become? And, working on him with those things, that he went on to eventually move out of my home, get his own place, get his own job, get his own car, and become a productive young man, which was, what he wanted all the time, to be able to operate on his own and stand on his feet. So that's just kind of how that those 3 examples worked out in the lives of that young man that I was helping at that time.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm sorry, y'all. We had a surge in our building, and it cut my internet off. So Ernest, thank you for keep going.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
Well, that's listen. That's the first time I gotta say, if you know me and you're watching right now, y'all gonna be very proud of me, because I didn't freak out. I was just like, oh no. And now I'm on my mobile hotspot, because I don't know what I just went on my mobile hotspot. So thank you so much for sharing.
As a podcast host, I've had that happen myself, when the guest is actually talking and it just go boom, and I guess their internet turn off, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's just me, and you have to keep the show going. So
listen, that is the first time that has ever happened. So internally, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure that never happens again. But but yes, so thank you so much for still even with the overlay, like you being split in two, you still kept going, right? You just lean to the side, you still kept going. Thank you so much for sharing. See, I'm all discombobulated now, but that's all right. That's all right. It's all family here. It's all family here. What are the challenges to healing ourselves, and how can we overcome them?
Well, it's three things, right? And I say that the three A's, just dealing with healing in our lives, right? So it's number one is acceptance, number two is asking, because it's asking for help, and then number three is actively healing, right? So number one is acceptance. A lot of times we don't accept the things that we're dealing with. You know, there are areas in our lives that we know we need healing in, but sometimes we say, oh no, I'm good. You know, it's not affecting me, or it doesn't bother me, but it does. You know what I mean? And it shows in the way that you show up in your life. You know, when there's areas in your life that's unhealed. You know what I mean? If we just talking about relationships, you get healed, you get hurt in one relationship, it definitely affects how you show up in the next relationship. You know what I mean? And so if you take on the persona of it don't affect me and I'm good, then you just neglecting the problem. You're just looking over the issue. But no, it's still an issue. I remember having a conversation recently about a clip that I seen with a young lady on a podcast, and she was dealing with a married man. She was in a relationship with a married man who, of course, wasn't her husband, you know. And so when they began to ask her about it, she was saying that in her past, she was with a guy and he cheated on her with another woman. And so she was like, that woman didn't care how I felt, you know, when she was coming to breaking up my home. So why should I care about how this guy's wife feels? You know, and so she kind of went into a whole little rant and it was upset because they was challenging her on it. Like, yeah, but if you were hurt, why would you then go and put that same hurt on somebody else? Mm-hmm. But it was because she wasn't healed, you know, and so she wasn't healed from her own experience. And so now she's taking that experience into the next relationship with somebody else and putting that same pain on someone else. And so a lot of times we have to face the issues that we're dealing with, where we're hurting, where we need to be healed. We got to accept it and we got to face it. So that's the first thing. The second one is asking for help, which is a big one, right? Especially in this climate that we're in now, with the number coming out of the pandemic and the number of suicides that has went up, and even knowing from my own experience, my own depression that I was in, and I'm very open about talking about my bout with depression and having suicidal thoughts myself, you know, and was thinking that the world would be better without me in it. You know what I'm saying? And that journey. But one of the things that helped me get out of that is asking for help, you know, and just talking to someone about it. And then those people were able to pull me and be my strength when I wasn't strong enough to pull myself out of that hole, you know. And so we got to ask for the help that we need. We got to reach out, you know, and because a lot of times we feel like we're alone because we make ourselves alone. You know, we don't share what we're going through. We don't share what we're dealing with. We don't ask for help. And so because no one knows our struggle, then yes, now I'm alone because I feel like I'm not understood, but we can't understand if you don't tell us what's going on, if you don't open those doors, if don't reach out for help. Then those of us who would love and would definitely, you know, go over and beyond to help you, if we don't know and you don't tell us, then we can't do anything about it, you know. And then the last one is being active in our healing. So a lot of times we sometimes treat our healing like a scar, right? We got a scar, we put a Band-Aid on it, and we put that Band-Aid on it. It's like, okay, leave it alone and let it heal by itself. And so we treat our emotional healing that same way, just like, okay, I'll put a little Band-Aid on it and then I'll just leave it alone and it'll heal by itself. But that ain't how it works. It takes some work. You know, we can't just put something on it and be like, okay, it's good. No, we got to address it, you know, get the healing for it, give it the attention that it needs, put the work in, you know, to emotionally go through the changes that we need to go through, address the issues that we need to grow through, you know, and be active in our own healing so that we can actively heal and not just put a Band-Aid on it and act like it don't exist. You know what I mean? Because it's still going to hurt. And when you rip that Band-Aid off, the scar is still going to be there, which lets us know that you've been through something, but did you heal from it or did you just cover it up? You know, so we have to be active in our healing of it.
Listen here, sir. That's good. That's a good. Listen, so accepting, right?
Asking for help. Yep.
Asking for help
and being active
and being active.
Yeah.
That's good. That's those are preacher words right there. That's good. That's good. And yeah, certainly I'm already thinking about what clips I want to show later on during the week, and this is definitely one of them, right?
Yeah.
That
Thank you.
acceptance, asking, and being active, because that is what, especially when you talked about what resonated for me is the asking for help part,
Mm-hmm.
because many of us don't. Not that we don't know how to ask for help, but because when we're going through, well, I'm going to talk about myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm challenged with depression and with anxiety and things like that. And so what happens is I feel ashamed to ask for help, right? The shame, or the guilt and the shame, right? Prevent me.
Yeah. I think we got another surge.
Got
But I'm
another search.
I was finna go in. So we wouldn't have no dead air.
Yeah, we got another, but I mean, just we could have done a whole broadcast just on the acceptance, asking, and active, because, and especially that asking for help part, because I know that's part, that is what I am challenged with, asking for help, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing better at it. I'm doing better at it, right? You're so right. When people don't know, like what's that quote, closed mouths
Closed mouths
don't get fed,
Yeah.
right? You can't get help if somebody don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and we got to break that stigma,
Right.
in our communities, right? Because a lot of times we don't talk about things because we feel like we won't be understood. We feel like we're the only one that's going through it, and
Yeah.
because so many generations before us have pushed things to the back, and you have that that one uncle in the back room that stays to himself, that's really dealing with some mental issues and things like that. But instead of us dealing with it, it's just like, oh no, Uncle Ray is back there. Leave Uncle Ray alone. You know what I mean? But no, bring Uncle Ray out. Let's talk to Uncle Ray. Let's find out what's going on with him and see if we can get him some healing. Because if we don't, it's going to be another Uncle Ray in the next generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's going to be another one in the next, and it'll just keep on going if we don't address it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
as a community, which is why I talk about my depression, I talk about my dealing with thinking about committing suicide. I talk about all of that very openly because
Right.
I want us to have the conversations. I want it to be normal. And once we make it normal for us to have the conversation, then it's easier for us to ask for help. So I'm
Right.
very open about talking about my deal with depression and wanting to commit suicide. And by me being vocal about it, especially amongst men, then it opens the door to make them feel free to admit, yeah, I've been going through some things and I've been dealing with some things, and we build these safe spaces for us to have these conversations, but somebody has to start the conversation first, and so I'm like, hey, I'll do it because I know it's needed.
Yeah. Pastor Joy said we need a 3-part series. Stop just asking and being active. Listen. I'm inclined to agree with you, Pastor Joy. So yeah, let's talk about something that we can do together, Ernest.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a Zoom session or another broadcast. Maybe we can do something together. That we can help the people heal. Hallelujah. All right. And so I know this, I don't know what is happening with the internet today, but it's okay. It's all right. We're gonna wrap up, because I think that we've had such rich conversation. I mean, there were so many things that I wanted to kind of get into, but we've had such rich conversation, and we will definitely have you back so that our listeners can experience more of you. What is one final thought that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
Okay, so I talked about briefly about my bout with depression, and so my depression came from at one point in my life I was dealing with what I call a D life. I was in debt. I was in depression. I was going through a divorce. My mother-in-law, who I was very close to at the time, passed away, and then after that, my mother passed away. And so dealing with all of that in the same time period, in the same time frame, I went into a deep depression, right? And so I started again feeling like the world would be better without me being here. And so I started having those thoughts of committing suicide. And so now being on the other side of it, again, I'm very open about it. And so the way that I teach it or inspire others, to come from that place, I say, you got to have fun with it. And so anybody that knows me know that I'm a guy that loves acronyms. And so when we look at the word fun, it stands for focus, it stands for unite, and it stands for normalize, right? So the focus with me, I had to take the focus off of myself and put it on my daughter. My daughter's my only biological child. And again, my mother-in-law and my mother had passed away. So now my daughter herself had just lost both of her grandmothers, right? And my daughter was my shadow, right? She's definitely a daddy's girl. And at this time, she was only like 7, 8 years old. So I had to take the focus off of myself and say, what would happen to my daughter who's just lost both of her grandparents if she lose her father too? And so taking that focus off of me, off of what I was going through, and focusing on my daughter gave me the strength to hold on just one more day and one more day and one more day and just take it as that, So that's the F, which is focus. The U stands for unite. And again, that goes back to what we said earlier about asking for help. So in uniting, reach out to someone, connect with someone that's going to get you the help that you need. So it was reach out to the suicide hotline, reach out to family members, reach out to organizations, you know what I mean? Everywhere, anywhere where you can get the help that you need and talk to somebody, reach out so you can unite with that community. And so in my own experience, I talked to somebody about it. I talked to some of my friends and loved ones, and they were able to help me, to pull me along, to come knock on the door and say, all right, we're going outside today, when I had pulled all the curtains down and it was sitting in the dark. You know what I mean? They physically had to come and get me, but they were able to do that because I expressed that I needed the help, and I expressed what I was going through. And then the last one, which is the N, which is normalized, which as I was going through bereavement, because I ended up going through bereavement for my mother and my mother-in-law, one of the terms that, I learned was our new normal, which is what our new normal would look like now that those people that has passed away is no longer physically here. And so coming out of that depression, coming out of that mindset, it was like, okay, what is my new normal? Yes, I have been affected by the things that has happened in my life, but now that I have to face this new day, what does this new day look like? And what do I have to look forward to? What are the joys that I can see every day and take advantage of that are still available to me to be able, again, going back to what I said earlier with the young lady who had her leg amputated. My leg's not amputated, so it's still a blessing that I can get up and walk outside my door. I can still get up and feel the sun on my face. I can still get up and walk to the pond that's right outside my house and watch the ducks swim. You know what I mean? So it's finding that new normal and realizing we still have things to live for. We still have people that care about us. I still am able to be here for my daughter, who now is finna be 20. You know what I mean? So all of those things, if I'm that new normal and realizing that, yes, some things have changed. Yes, we have been through some things, but life still goes on and we still have the ability to live happy and to change our circumstances of what we're going through today in order to live a better tomorrow. So I just want to leave that with the listeners.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What's coming up next for you? How can we support you?
Always can support me by supporting the podcast, which is Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Definitely on YouTube. I really want to get my YouTube numbers up. But you can find me on Instagram at Deal to Heal podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and pretty much all the social media outlets. But one of the things that I'm really proud of right now is I'm a part of a organization called the Forgiveness Mission, and we have free forgiveness workshops every quarter of the year. We just had our first one a couple of weeks ago for this year, and we talk about forgiveness. We talk about what it is, what it's not, who is for, and how it shows up in your life. And so you guys can go to forgivenessmission.com to see when the next workshop that we're having should be coming up. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, but the information is definitely valuable. And we talk about, my session on it is talking about forgiving self. And so I even wrote an ebook about that called The 4 Steps to Self-Forgiveness. And my ebooks are available at ebooksbyejames.com. So you can always go there and get the ebooks. But yeah, for what I'm doing right now, the most recent thing would be the forgiveness workshops, and you can catch me there.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And you've already shared with us how folk can find you on social media. Thank you so much again, Ernest, for joining us. I appreciate you so much, brother. And we would definitely have you back.
No problem, no problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right, y'all. We are getting ready to wrap up. I want to make sure that you remember to join us next week. Next week, we'll be talking with Nathalie Calderon, the fabulous amputee. And she's an inspirational speaker. And she is the author of Dear Young Differently Abled Girl. It's a children's book. And I'm so excited about having Nathalie on with us next week. So make sure that you save the date for that, and also make sure that you register. I'm gonna keep talking about it because I want you to register for this event on Tuesday evening. When we had the initial broadcast, you did ask for a part 2, and this is how we're doing that part 2. We are bringing you in to the Zoom with us so that we can have conversation. Again, we are not streaming this live. We are not streaming this live. We are going to be in Zoom with each other so that we can have some real conversation, right? And we're creating a bold and brave space, encouraging space for you to be able to come and share, right? As we go over the tips and tools of relationship goals. Again, if you missed that first broadcast, feel free to go back to our, let me pop this in the chat again. I'm so sorry. I'm popping this in the chat. Doing 2 things at once. Give me a second here. All right. So I've popped that registration link. I think I jacked that up. I'm discombobulated today, y'all. I don't know what is happening. All right, I'm going to post it again. I'm glad y'all my family because I don't, I could make a little mistake and it'd be all right. That link is in the chat, okay? So again, if you missed that first one, missed our first broadcast, please go back and watch it, right? So, once again, you could go to Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Bullet and Flight Radio. If you want to listen on Spotify, you could watch and listen at the same time. But go just look for us, Inspired by Kara, and all of those platforms. And of course, you will be able to see video from Facebook, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and also on Twitter. You'll be able to see our past videos. And please watch it to prepare for our conversation on Tuesday. Thanks, y'all. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for dealing with the internet with us. Yes, God's gonna bring me a team. I believe it, Pastor Joyce. I received that God's gonna bring me a team because there's a whole lot of things that I want to do, and I don't intend to do it by myself. I can't do it by myself. So I'm gonna receive that team that the divine sends me. All right. Thank you so much, family, for watching, for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And until next time, I want you to stay lifted. I want you to stay motivated. But most of all, I want you to stay inspired. Love y'all. See you next week.